Welcome to Module 6. Module 6 is last knowledge area in OLT 132, Studies in African Literature. Module 6 deals with the, or introduces you to literature from South Africa. Here in this module, we are going to see stories from South Africa written by various writers from South Africa. That Module 6, literature from South Africa, as I've said, consists of 4 lectures, whereby lecture 1 has to do with the leading Clyde the Beloved Country. Clyde the Beloved Country is a very interesting story, a story which written by the author or the writer from South Africa. And lecture 2 has to do with the analyzing Clyde the Beloved Country. Here in lecture 2, we analyze where in lecture 1 we read the story Clyde the Beloved Country, and in lecture 2 we make the analysis of this particular story. Therefore, lecture 2 has to do with the novel analysis. Coming to lecture 3 is all about reading a story titled Mine Boy. Through this story, we get to see how is the situation is in mines of South Africa. And lecture 4 of Module 6 has to do with the Mine Boy analysis. We analyze Mine Boy in this lecture. That therefore, this module, as I have said, consists of 4 lectures, and those are the stories. To begin with is the area of concentration. That in this presentation, we are going to concentrate in lecture 2, and lecture 3. We by combining them together, seeing part of this story, Mine Boy, at the same time trying to analyze the story shortly. Introduction to our story, and that is Mine Boy. That Mine Boy is a novel that talks about the problems of the South African miners experienced during the apartheid policy in South Africa. The story tries to show the struggle of Africans to attain equal right and to be treated as human beings with dignity. You can see through this story how the situation is in South Africa. The issue of racism, that there is a certain race which is regarded as a very important race, or a high race, or a race which is chosen compared to other race. Therefore, and the titled Mine Boy is the book authored by Peter Abraham, a writer from South Africa, and trying to show the situation in South African society, and that's how blacks are treated, and how whites treats black people in South Africa, especially in mines and elsewhere of South Africa. That the book was published in South Africa by the year 1946. You can see here is the time where apartheid policy was very high. That it is a South African novel. It is a South African novel which primarily makes a statement about racial segregation in South Africa, and that racial discrimination. That this book tries to reveal how white people think that their race is superior to the black race. Then the story is also commentary. On how unfairly black people were treated in their own country, that is South Africa. And by the time the book was published, therefore, you can see how black people in South Africa were treated in their own country. They are not free, while the countries theirs. You can imagine. A certain foreigner come and start and treat you badly in your own country. And that is what Peter Abraham in Mindboy tries to portray to the people, to the society around Africa and the world in general. That Peter Abraham, we can see about Peter Abraham. Peter Abraham, the author of this story, that Peter Abraham, in full name, that it is Peter Henry Abraham Dealers. Peter Henry Abraham Dealers was born in March 30, 1919, at a certain place called the Vedadopo near Johannesburg, and that is in South Africa. And Abraham died in January 18, 2017 at Kingston, Jamaica. There you can ask some questions. Why born in South Africa and died in Kingston, Jamaica? There are some reasons behind, You can find those reasons in order to know why Peter Abraham died in a strange country, which is not his country. That he is a South African born writer who penned persistive and powerful novel about the injustice and complicities of racial politics in South Africa. That his early work, that is Mindboy, was published, as I have said, in 1946. Was the first to depict the dehumanizing effect of racism in South Africa on black and mixed race people, and was perhaps the first South African book written in English to win the international acclaim. This is like to say that this book was received with much attention due to its proclaim of the apartheid, the racial discrimination, racial segregation, which was taking place by that time in South Africa. Then, although Abraham left South Africa in 1939 and moved to England, where worked as an editor for the Daily Workers, a communist newspaper, and became involved in Pan-Africanism movement. Most of his novels and short stories are based on his early life in South Africa. Most of his novels, most of his stories, most of his writings are based on his early life in South Africa. Simply because it is a place where he was born, so he knows much about his own country. He knows much about his own country. That Mindboy, for example, the story Mindboy, we are told that the story tries to tell of a country youth thrown into the alien and oppressive culture of a large South African industrial city. That the main character in this story, Mindboy, is portrayed being thrown into an alien environment, a strange environment, an oppressive environment, oppressive culture at a large South African industrial city. This character is being thrown there to survive. At the same time, this character thrown himself there, and seeking good life. That to survive that alien and the oppressive culture with no any weapons to fight them. And you can see how the environment was difficult. You can see how the environment was difficult to him, though he had no any weapon, to fight that strange, oppressive environment. Then the Path of Thunder, which was written or which was published in 1948. This is a book or another story published by Peter Abraham. Depicts a young mixed-race couple under the menacing shadow of enforced segregation. And also there is another story which is Wilde Conquest, which was published in 1965, and set forth the plight of Indian in South Africa, and tries to show the plight the plight of Indians in South Africa. Therefore, you can see those writings or those stories, apart from Mindboy, authored by the same writer that is Peter Abraham. Also, there is another Red for Udom, that was published in 1956. This was a new educational, and also was edited in 1971. And describes an English educated African who became the despotic ruler of his homeland, Therefore, you can see these stories which was authored by the same writer. You can see The Path of Thunder, 1948, World Conquest, 1950. 2 years after, 1950, then you can see A Night of the Year On, which was published in 1965, and another is Red for Udom, Udomo, 1956, and edited in 1971. Then we can see the arrangement of the story, and that is a plot of Mindboy. First of all, before we jump to the plot, let's see what is a plot. Simply because we need to know even the plot, what is it? That the term plot means the choice and arrangement of events in a story. That is the choice of events and arranging them. That's the meaning of plot. Therefore, plot of the book Mindboy is as I'm going to discuss, that the plot of Mindboy follows the main character named Zuma. And Zuma is our center of the story, simply because he is the main character. He is the one who threw himself from a homeland to a strange environment, that is South African South African industrial city. That Zuma is seen moving to Johannesburg to find works. You see that a lot of people, a lot of young people nowadays think that if you go to the town, you will get a job, then you will live a good life. The same applies to Zuma, that he actually wants to work in the mines, believing that by working there, life will be simple, life will be good, life will be interesting. Something which after have reached there, he saw things different, and things are different. Then he is seen in the story, experienced discrimination and unfairness in the mines, also in his day-to-day life. Therefore, things there was contrary as he expected. This includes a terrible working condition, in the mines, and the poor housing. That there in the mine there is no housing, and there is no good housing. And you sleep anywhere. Anywhere you find is conducive for you to sleep, and there is no good house, there is no sleeping beds, yeah, and things like that. Therefore, our main character, that is young boy, that is Zuma, and find the strange environment contrary to his expectations. Then through this novel, Zuma sees how the cycle of social segregation affects people around him. That people in the mine there, they face segregation. There is classes there. People are living to their standard. If your standard is low, you live with your fellow Africans who you share the same standard, a low standard, poor one, in an alien environment, a strange environment, harsh environment, environment which is not conducive for health. Then Zuma and other miners are subjected to inhuman treatment, that they are treated badly. In the story, you see that they are treated inhuman. They are treated like if they are not human, they are treated wrongly, badly. According to the story, Zuma is from north of South Africa. He became the leading figure in the struggle to end the exploitation. And the African and the South African experience, especially bad experience. There, that Zuma, after arriving there, he is seen trying to fight, trying to mobilize his fellow Africans to fight that harsh treatment, that bad environment, that racial segregation, which were there. Then, on arrival to Johannesburg, he settled in Malai's camp with the layer, and there, after arrived at South Africa, he is seen got a company, getting a company from another character called Lear. Then city life is new experience for Zuma. That the life experienced while he is at the village is quite different from the life which is there at the town. That city life is a new experience to him, who has come to look for work in the mine. Then the mining is hard, but Zuma is strong and learn fast. He tries to cope up with the environment. Though the environment is harsh, the environment is hard. Zuma tries to cope up. Hence, he learn it and get experience about that particular environment, and managed to live there like those Africans, fellow Africans who were living there before him. That miners have to grow loving their jobs, as it will give them money to live on until the next pay. You know, they were needed to relate the environment, though the environment was harsh, and they were needed to relate till the next pay, till the time they are ready to be paid their payment. But it would also kill them slowly. That is according to the story, that the environment is killing them slowly. Why killing them slowly? It is simply because they are working in a poor condition. They are working long working hours without any equipment which would support them to fight to work to that harsh condition. Then Duma, we are told that Duma thinks that a man should not run if he has done no wrong. That it's like a piece of advice that if you are a man, you don't have to afraid anything. You have to fight. If you didn't do any wrong, you don't have to run. And that's the principle. That's the principle of our main character. That is Zuma. That if you didn't do anything, you don't have to run. Why are you running? Then why are you afraid of? That's what Zuma is trying to share with us. Then it is plot continuation. That white people sell beer, but if that's another part that white people are allowed to do anything in South Africa. White people are allowed to do anything in South Africa, but Africans are not allowed. That's why you see white people are allowed to sell beer, but if Leah did so, if they did the same, she is penalized. She is penalized that you are not allowed to sell beer. We are the only one who allowed to sell beer. We are the only one who allowed to do whatever thing we want. Not you black people. Then Duma falls in love with Eliza, which points out the clash between traditionalism and modernity. And this is a symbol. At the same time, tries to reveal the so-called traditionalism versus modernity, and traditionalism versus modernity. He did. We are told, according to the story, that he is desperately wants Eliza's love, but she wants the comfort of a white man's life. You see, while Zuma loves Eliza, Eliza loves the comfort of white man's life. While Eliza knows that Zuma cannot provide such things. It is Mace, the simple, happy girl who genuinely loves Zuma. Here there are two girls. Eliza and Mace. Eliza loves expensive things to be provided by Zuma. While Mace love Zuma unconditionally. Then Zuma's role as a leader of his fellow miners is to put him at the forefront of the struggle for the miners and the Africans' dignity. You see, while at the mine, Zuma became a leader of all miners in mining in South Africa, and hence his role is to put the forefront of the struggles of the fellow Africans, that including Pad O'Shea. That Pad O'Shea is Zuma's supervisor. Zuma's supervisor made Zuma realize that Africans are considered second-class citizens by the apartheid regime. That the issue of racism the issue of racism, which stated that white race is superior than black race. However, Welipad and Zuma led the strike. We can see in a story that it reaches time when Zuma mobilizes a strike, mobilizes a movement protesting the treatment which they are received from the white, that they are bound together by the belief that man first, then his color follows. Man first, then his color follows. In Maniboy, we learn about the story of the city and the custom of the rural areas. And there are two things. That urban areas or urban culture versus rural culture. That the custom are the black people and the city are the whites. And there, the writer, that is Peter Abraham, tries to compare by taking white as a superior, that they are there just for to live in the town, while the black people are supposed to live in the rural areas. When the white people come, they were welcome. They were welcomed. Through this story, we are told that when white people came, they welcomed by the black warmly. That Africans welcome whites and welcome white warmly. But the whites seemed ungrateful. But since they were quiet and they thought they would not cause any harm, but as time went on, whites changed and destroyed the culture, especially African culture. That you welcome somebody with good intention, but that one you welcome has his thought. That what happened in South Africa, and that what Abraham tries to show first the South African society by the time. Then through the story, it's seen how apartheid having its basis in the economic system of South Africa. That apartheid it has a strong root in economic system of South Africa, rather than less as people are thinking. That is according to this story by Peter Abraham, a story of Maniboy. That though Abraham sees only in terms of racial differences, his correct belief is that racism stands in the way of human relationship. That racism it is part and parcel of human relationship. Then this led to the false conclusion that it will remove automatically, that apartheid will be removed or will remove automatically, which leads to equality, among the different racial groups. Something which is not true, in one sense, but in the other it may be. Then Abraham disregards the fact that racism used by capitalism as justification for exploiting the black sections of South African society. That racism was just the means, used by the white to exploit or to enrich themselves from the African resources, especially in South Africa. Then, therefore, racial integration, as suggested by Abraham's cannot be a solution. Cannot be a solution to South African people if the economic system does not change. That there is a need. There is a need to change the economic system in South Africa so that the so-called racial segregation or racial discrimination to be removed. And this can be seen in chapter 2. That chapter 2 deals with the way Abraham depicts attempt to fight against colonialism, in a race for Udom, in a race or in ready for Udom, and a night of their own. Then Abraham forgets to see that it is a fight of all black people and all black people's participation in colonialism, and black people who participate in colonialism. That he ignores the majority of the people. As you have seen that Abraham, the author of this story, did he forget to see that it is a fight of all people, of peoples participated in colonialism, and ignores the majority of people and people's participation in this struggle. Therefore, the author, through his character and through his characters, we are supposed to involve all people instead of using few characters in this particular story. And by the virtue of the class position, the interest of the middle class are inimical to those of the majority of the people, and majority of the people in South Africa, since they are incalculated with this heredity mentality. The type of independence this Udom's fight for does not necessarily improve the condition of the majority of people in South Africa. There you can see, though they fight for their freedom, still freedom is not there. Then chapter 3 deals with Abraham's depiction of an attempt to change the power structure and independent black country that suffers foreign domination, that in South Africa. Then in his attempt to create plausible power structure that cater for the majority of the people, Abraham does not see the capitalism he had advocated for the island and inherently exploitative, which is in South Africa. Therefore, in prescribing it as a solution to the island's problem, especially the island of South Africa. Then psychological affect that colonial rule has on the people in South Africa, specifically an individual's life, are shown through Eliza. And one character called Eliza act as a representative of people affected psychologically in South Africa. That the woman Zuma has romantic relationship with. That we did see earlier that Eliza had relationship with the main character, and that is Zuma. That the character whom the writer uses to show the psychological effect that African, especially South African people are facing. That she is portrayed as a woman who actually wants to live the same lifestyle as whites do, but because of the system set up, she can't live such kind of life. Therefore, this is really drives Zuma crazy. And why Zuma craze? Simply because he cannot afford the lifestyle that Eliza wants. That he cannot give what Eliza wants in one hand, and in the other hand, he thinks Eliza is a craze. How can you admire, and how can you admire to live a life which you cannot afford? And that's why Zuma thinks Eliza is a craze. Then the issue of dipsomaniac, the issue of the dipsomaniac issues is portrayed through a friend of Zuma working together in the mines. That he is a soccer, boozer, rush or sauce, a kind of person who drinks alcohol to excess habitual. You know, a very drunkard man. This man is portrayed as disillusioned. You know, someone who has lost hope that there is no light in the future. That's why the character decided, that friend of Zuma decided to take alcoholism as a solution to his problems. Also, through another character named Daddy, through him, alcohol is like the religion. That Abraham says both these men used to be strong in the past, but the system blocked them down. You know, they have lost hope, and that's why they have decided to take alcohol. Instead of solving their problem in normal way, they think that by drinking too much that it can solve their problem, something which is not true. Therefore, that's a piece of advice which Peter Abraham tries to share to his reader. Then this is shown through Zuma versus his boss Paddy, that there is the issue of hate. Hate or hatred, that Zuma hates Paddy. At the same time, Paddy hates Zuma. That Zuma does not like him. Paddy is the kind of the character who seemed to be called at the beginning. Zuma respected him because he is the only white man who treated him fairly. And Paddy is seen trying to be friend with Zuma, but Zuma rejects. He feels like white man and black cannot be friends. That white man and the black man cannot be together. They cannot be friends, and they cannot be friends. That's what Zuma thinks. Then there is the issue of friendship development. That as the story goes on, there is a little friendship that develops between these two characters. According to the story, Peter Abraham says that it is Paddy who insisted friendship, that Paddy insisted to be friend with the Zuma. It is seen Paddy assist and encourage Zuma, that he must come to fight for colorless society. That he must fight to free the black race in South Africa. Therefore, by doing so, it is some sort of creating friendship or bring himself together, if not closer to Zuma. Then there is also the issue of gender, and Peter Abraham tries to address the issue of gender. That Abraham tries to address this issue of gender through his female character in an interesting way. And a good example here is character named Leah. That Leah is an intelligent and a very strong woman who puts much effort on her business, selling illegal liquor, and the kind that you are told that she is a kind of woman who does not take shit from men. That she knows what she is doing in her business. Then there is apart from this story, which is the Mind Boy, we can shift to another story, which is lecture 2. Lecture 2, we can see a little of a thing like introduction about this story called Clyde the Beloved Country. this also is a story, which has setting in South Africa. Cry the Beloved Country is a story authored by the author called Alan Patton. And the story is, as I have said, settled in South Africa. And the story was published for the first time in the US by 1948. Cry the Beloved Country is the story in order to understand its message, its message to the society and the meaning at all. You need to go through it and ask yourself some questions. Some of the questions which will guide you if you want to understand this particular story. One of them is what lessons do we learn from the story, from this story that is Cry the Beloved Country. Another question is, the lessons we learn from the lesson we learn have anything to do with our life, our lives? Do we learn anything? And if we learn something from the story, do they impact our life in one way or another? Another question is, do they influence our lives in one way or another? These are some questions which you need to ask yourself before start reading that particular story, so that you can understand it all. Another question is the story relevant to our society and elsewhere? That is our society, maybe in Tanzania or Kenya or Africa in general, or other part of the world. To the story relevant? That is the question. Normally answering this kind of questions is not an easy task. In order to answer this kind of question, serious study of the book, thematic analysis, and characterization is needed. And if you want to make all those, you need to go through this particular story, which is Cry the Beloved Country. Therefore, the story is opened by two characters, James Jarvis and Kumaro. Kumaro and James Jarvis, these are two characters who are seen in this story as given by Alan Patton. They are portrayed as two different fathers of two different races from two different cultures. One is a white man, for instance, James Jarvis is a white man, while Kumaro is a black man. Then Kumaro is a country priest, while Jarvis is a white farmer. Generally, the story takes place against the backdrop of social and justice, mainly concerning the idea that the white race is superior and better than the black race. Then, to finalize is Kumaro and Jarvis continuation. From the beginning of you can see from the beginning of this story that there is the issue of cultural conflict portrayed in this story, like the Beloved Country. The issue of cultural conflict, that two different fathers. You can see that James, from the very beginning, you come to realize the following things from this story, Cry the Beloved Country. First thing we realize is cultural conflict. The writer portrayed the issue of two different fathers. They do not share culture. One is white, one is black. Apart from that is a belief that we are seeing in the story. We see in the story that Kumaro is a country priest, while Jarvis is a white man. Also, the issue of racism, there is the issue of racism, and also family disintegration, justice, moral decay, and others. There are so many things here to be found in this story, which are very, very important. Then, thank you for listening. For today, we end here. Till next time. Thank you.